The third mechanical position of every jump shot is the release point. Okay, we start with our load point, lift the ball up, we hit our lift point, and then from here we release the ball, and up here there is our release point. Okay, every jump shooter needs to have a strong and consistent release point if you want to be a good shooter. So let's dive into the details and the technique needed. The first thing we're going to talk about is timing. You should be releasing the ball on the way up. This is important to remember. My knees are bent as I lift the ball, so when I get to my lift point, I've still got some bend in my knees. I haven't jumped yet. This allows me to jump and release at the same time. This is what coaches mean when they say shoot on the way up. We don't want to be holding the ball at our lift point and then releasing on the way down. We don't want to try to be releasing at the peak of our jump because usually that leads us to shoot on the way down. We want to actually shoot on the way up. This is going to give you the most fluid and smooth jump shot. It's going to give you the most power, so it's going to increase your range, and it's going to allow you to become very consistent. So first and foremost, release and jump together, shoot on the way up. Now let's talk about some of the details here with our release point. In order to shoot straight, we want to make sure we flick through the ball, straight through the ball with these two fingers, our pointer finger and our middle finger. We do not want the ball going off of our ring finger or our pinky. Those are weak fingers. So my whole hand is on the ball, but I'm going to emphasize flicking straight through the ball with my middle finger and my index finger like this, okay? And I'm gonna make sure that I flick down. I don't want an open hand or open palm release. I flick straight through the ball, my fingers flick down, so when I'm done, my fingers are pointed down towards the ground. This is gonna give me power. This is gonna let that ball pop off of my hand. It's gonna improve my arch, and it's gonna improve power and consistency. So make sure these two fingers flick straight through the ball. Here's some things that get players into trouble with their release point. First thing is I call it the wandering or the waving release point, meaning I don't shoot straight, I shoot in with my whole arm going across my face, and then I snap it back and kind of trick myself into thinking I did it correctly. Hard to shoot straight when I am pushing or flicking across my face and then trying to bring it back after the fact. So make sure you don't have that wandering or waving release point. The next thing we want to make sure we do with our release point is even if your arm is shooting straight, don't allow your hand to flick outwards. See how my two fingers are not poorly pointed down, they're pointed out to the side. My arm is straight to the target, but my fingers flicked over and out. Again, hard to shoot accurately, hard to shoot straight when your hand is doing that, and a lot of players trick themselves flicking out and then bringing their hand back down, and they think to themselves they did it correctly. No, you didn't. You're tricking yourself. Really dial in that release point, that technique of flicking straight through the ball and those fingers going straight down. Ultimately, your release point is going to determine so much in your accuracy. If you're missing a lot of shots to the left and to the right, well, you need to take a look at, do you have a wandering release point? Are you consistently flicking from these two fingers straight through the ball? Maybe you're not flicking the same direction every single time. You need to take a look at all of those details and dial in that technique if you want to consistently shoot straight. So we've talked about timing. We've talked about some of the technique that you need to really emphasize with your release point. Now we need to talk about the last thing, and that is how high should your release point be? There is no one answer. The old analogy of reaching into the basket or into the cookie jar is very accurate. You need to adjust your release point based on how close you are to the basket. If you're closer to the hoop, you're going to have to release more up if you can understand that visual of reaching into the basket. The further back you are, you're going to want to release a little more forward because the hoop is further away and I'm reaching forward and into the basket with my release. So there are the three aspects of your release point that you really need to dial in. Lock in on shooting on the way up, releasing the ball on the way up, lock in on the technique of shooting straight, making sure everything's flicking through the ball to the hoop, and then work on what release point do you need to have based on your distance, and learn to feel how you should be releasing the ball as you move, as you shoot from all different spots and all different types of shots. Okay, so again, a good release point: load, lift, release, flicking straight through the ball, everything going to the basket, smooth, quick, and strong.